Hello all. Now as we have seen up till now the various types or classification of tunnels based on the shape, based on the purpose and based on the alignment. So now we are in a position that okay, if these are the varieties or this is the basket from which I have to choose that which is the appropriate shape or which is the appropriate size for the tunnel that you are intending to construct. So the next question comes is on basis of which criteria. It can be a single criteria or it can be lot of criteria. So based on which criteria will you select the size and shape of your tunnel. So though I said that it might be based on a single criteria, but in practice it is never based on a single criteria. You have to consider uh, more than one parameters while selecting the size and shape of your tunnel. So the first and foremost which comes to our mind is obviously the ground strata, because we are going to construct this tunnel through the earth. Okay, underneath the earth we are going to dig in the earth, or we are going to blast it, or we are going to just excavate a part of it and then again stabilize it. So we are playing basically with the ground strata. So a clear idea about what type of ground data you have, what is the variation in it, so that will give you a very good reason to select a particular size and shape of a tunnel. So this again is covered in your engineering geology, whatever you must have studied in your engineering in second year or so. So there you must have covered that what is the variation that you can have in ground strata. So the direct application of that is while selecting the size and shape of your tunnel. Then obviously if it is intended to be used for transportation of vehicles, it may be cars, trucks or even railways. So in that case you should be knowing the traffic density, what is expected. It should not happen that you have constructed a tunnel which is say 2 lane road, means you can say it's a 7 to 8 meter width of the carriageway, but over the span of say a couple of years, 2 or 3 years after the inauguration of the tunnel, it is seen that there is a huge traffic congestion inside the tunnel itself. Okay, so that is not desirable. Traffic congestion, we all know, you all must have experienced it on open roads, but when traffic congestion is seen in tunnels, so it creates a lot of other problems along with it. It doesn't just create the problem of congestion, but due to that there is a problem of ventilation as well, because the exhaust which is emitted it is trapped inside the tunnel, and though you have ventilation systems in place, but due to that congestion the duration for which the exhaust need to take out the gases, that will be more, and then it will create all other problems. So traffic density you should be very well aware of beforehand itself while designing. Then the tunnel length, obviously, that for how much length you are intending to bypass that obstruction, whatever is there. It may be a water body or it may be a hill. Then the purpose of construction, again, whether it's a transportation purpose, transportation of vehicles or pedestrian or some materials such as oil or sewage or water. So depending on that you will select the size and shapes. This we have already touched upon when we were discussing the different shapes, as in the egg shape, the circular shape, the elliptical shape. So in each of the shapes we saw that there is a particular purpose for which they can be constructed. Then the important another important thing, that is the water table. As we are dealing with this ground strata, so obviously there is going to be presence of water table. So you have to be well aware of the levels of those water table and the fluctuation. It's not like that you are going to construct your tunnel in summer season, so maybe that time you have not given a thought on this water table because there might not be a considerable level of that water table. But once your project progresses and then monsoon arrives, then you might face this problem of water table level. Okay, so this should be predetermined itself, and not only in construction but later after the construction gets completed and your tunnel goes into the operation phase. During that time also this water table level, it will create a havoc if not considered properly. So we'll discuss more of it in the drainage part, the tunnel drainage. But for now, obviously the important parameter or criteria while selecting the size and shape of tunnel is water table level. And then we have seen that tunnel itself, it's a costlier affair and it's a huge infrastructure project. So obviously you will require machinery, and not just a very basic machinery, but you require some sophisticated machinery as well. You'll see that in the coming lectures as well when we discuss upon the tunnel boring machine. So that's the another criteria. And along with that, as I told you, the machinery is sophisticated, so obviously you'll need some technical staff as well who is well versed with that kind of machine, handling of that kind of machine. Okay. So these are the criterions that we can think upon for selecting any size or shape of a tunnel. Now, the next three terms that I'm going to talk about, 3 to 4 terms, those are some terminologies related to tunnel engineering. And I'll not say it's completely off track, but somewhere they are a part of a tunnel, they are part as a component, or they are part as a another working aspect of a tunnel. Okay. So the first one amongst that is a pilot tunnel. Now, what is this pilot tunnel? So instead of going to this theory, I'll directly go to a pictorial representation. So this is an example of a secant tunnel in Japan. Okay. So what they have is, if you see this photo over here, it's a figure, not photo also. So if you see this figure, the first or the main tunnel, which is numbered as 1, so it's 11 to 11.4 meter wide. It's a horseshoe shaped tunnel that you have. So this is the main tunnel, that is uh, the secant tunnel, which is there in Japan. Okay. But what you can see along with this main tunnel, you have some small tunnels as well. So the second numbered that you have is a service tunnel, which is a smaller one, 4 to 5 meter wide. You can see it's also a horseshoe shape, but the size is a bit small. And then the main tunnel and the service tunnel, they are connected with the help of this gallery, okay, at every 600 meter or half a kilometer, you can say approximately. So at every 600 meter it is connected. Now what is this pilot tunnel? So pilot tunnel is this number 3 that you see over here. So it is 3.6 to 5 meter wide, and obviously it is again a smaller size than your main tunnel. But the noticeable thing about this pilot tunnel is, if you see the levels, so service tunnel and your main tunnel, you can say they are almost at the same levels or a bit of a difference. But pilot tunnel, if you see over here, it is at a lower level than this main tunnel. So what is this purpose of this pilot tunnel? So whenever you have a large diameter tunnel, so in this case what example we have seen, so that's secant tunnel in Japan, it is almost 11 meter wide. So whenever you have a tunnel whose width is greater than, or diameter is greater than 8 meter, so adopting a full face excavation will face a problem. As in, if I go on excavating this main tunnel of 11 meter wide from here itself using the blasting technique or NATM technique, so it will be a bit difficult for me. And suppose that this tunnel is for tens of kilometers, so the job will be tedious. And as you see, it's a horseshoe shaped tunnel, so we are not deploying our TBM over here. So that's one assumption that we'll do. So in that case, instead of directly starting excavation, you will start the excavation obviously, but apart from that, you will dig out a pilot tunnel first. Okay, this kind of thing. And what this tunnel will do, this tunnel, it will be parallel to the main tunnel. okay, or whatever is the alignment of the main tunnel. So it will be parallel to the main tunnel, as you can see here itself. Okay. And in between you have a cross cut. Now the purpose of this pilot tunnels, you have some variety or varied purposes. So first of all, it will serve as an exploratory tunnel. So we have seen just now that to select the or the criteria for selection of size and shape of a tunnel, the first foremost criteria is ground strata. And ground strata, though it seems to be very obvious that okay, it's a basalt type of formation, or it's a sedimentary formation, or you have some metamorphic structures in between, even if it looks to seems to be easy theoretically, but in practice there are different forms as well you can which you can come across, and obviously the variations will be there. So whenever you are going for such a huge tunnel, quantum of the tunnel is more, so in that case it's better to go for first an exploration. So this pilot tunnel, it will be sort of an exploratory tunnel, so you'll come to know more about the strata uh, with which you are dealing with. Okay. And then it will also provide an access for ground treatment. So whatever is the treatment required during the blasting process or the drilling process, or even maybe during the tunnel boring machine process, so that can be provided through this pilot tunnel. And then now this is something that we'll be seeing in the coming lectures, but for now you can remember there is something called mucking. So mucking is just removal of the excavated material, that is called mucking. So the time required for this mucking in large tunnel is reduced when you have a pilot tunnel, as in the okay. Whenever there is this large phase excavation, so the excavation will take place, you'll go on removing the muck, and then that muck will have just one direction, say suppose this. So it will take a lot of time. Whatever is the mucking process you deploy, whether you deploy any vehicles or you deploy conveyor belt system, but it will take its own time because there is only one point through which you are taking out the muck. So instead of that, this pilot tunnel, it can also be used for this mucking operation. So along with this main phase of your tunnel, the mucking operation, it can go through this pilot tunnel as well. Okay. And then again it improves our drainage and ventilation of the tunnel. Now this is again something that we'll be looking upon at the end of this unit of tunnel engineering. Okay. So when we are dealing with structures underground, so the main issue which can come upon and which comes in predominantly in the case of tunnels is the in water and the ventilation. Okay. So water in the form of groundwater, when it is intercepted in the tunnel, so your main aim will be to take out that water safely so that it doesn't damage any part of your or any component of your tunnel. Same is the case with ventilation. So during excavation and even after the construction, whenever this is the operation phase, so in that lot of exhaust gases will be emitted, and again a concern will be to take out those exhaust gases. So in both the cases, this pilot tunnel can serve as an extra opening into your ground system. Okay, so if say this pilot tunnel was not there, and even the service tunnel was not there, so in that case this main tunnel would be the only opening in the ground which you would be using for ventilation as well as drainage purpose. But now if you have this pilot tunnel in place, so it can be an additional opening which will be useful to the designer and the contractor itself. And obviously the speed of the work, it will also increase due to this pilot tunnel, because as I said, it is an additional opening into the ground that you can access to, and an additional opening or additional link into the ground, it is always suitable, because then you can have uh, multiple working points through which you can start your excavation and other operations. So maybe your main as the pilot tunnel, it is excavated the very first stage. So first the pilot tunnel is excavated and then the main tunnel excavation starts. So by the time the main tunnel excavation starts, your pilot tunnel is already prepared. So maybe you can start the excavation of main tunnel at two locations: one where there is an intersection between this cross gallery or cross cut and the pilot tunnel, and second at the face itself. So now here you see, if there was no pilot tunnel, then I would have started excavating just at the front face of the tunnel. But now as I have access to pilot tunnel, so I can excavate at two locations simultaneously. So that will speed up the process of excavation. So these are the advantage of your pilot tunnel. Another important component of your tunnel is a shaft. Now what is this shaft? So in this animated photograph, what you see, so this is the alignment of your tunnel, and whatever this vertical tube or well like structures that you see, so these are nothing but shafts. So these are vertical, or in some cases they are also inclined openings which are provided during excavation of your tunnel and from the surface of the hill. Okay, and it meets the main tunnel at various locations. Now what is, or again, just like your pilot tunnel, this shaft also, it has varied purposes. So for that I'll just take an example. So this Gotthard base tunnel, again this is the same tunnel that we have seen. So this is the same tunnel that we had seen in the classification of the tunnels as well, when we were looking into the types of tunnels based on the alignment. So Gotthard base tunnel, what I wanted to show you is this shaft over here. Okay. So this is the actual alignment or the main tunnel that you have. Alright. So along with this main tunnel, what you see here are two shafts, and these two shafts, they were constructed during the excavation of the tunnel itself. And if you observe closely, this one of the shaft, it is known as the air shaft. Okay. And if I just focus on the, if you just focus on this part, so one of the shaft, it has an opening which is over the hilly, or which is over the hills or mountains through which the Gotthard base tunnel passes. So this acts as an air shaft for ventilation purpose. And another purpose for your shaft, it is you can lower your machinery through this shaft. Okay. Now how will you lower? Suppose say you have to speed up the excavation, and as I told you, in during the excavation underground, the more access you have through the ground, or the more openings you have through the ground, the more easier it is and the more quick it is for you to excavate. So your main excavation, it will start from this face itself, the front face, or even it will start from the back face. Okay, or the rear end. But even if you have to speed your excavation a bit more than that, then what you'll do is you excavate this kind of shafts, and then you'll lower your machinery over here. Okay. Whatever machinery it is, if it's on TBM, you lower the TBM in parts, or if it's a normal drilling machine or blasting equipment, so you'll lower those from here, and then you'll start excavating from this these intermediate ends as well. So what will happen, simultaneously you are digging into or excavating at four different locations, so that will obviously reduce the time required for this excavation. Okay, so like your pilot tunnel, your shaft also, it has multiple uses. So one is for lowering your machinery, another is for ventilation purpose. So generally whatever shaft is excavated or prepared during the excavation process, it is kept permanent. Very rarely it is seen that it is again filled up with earth, but it is kept permanent because it can act as a good member for a air ventilation system. Okay, so these are the two major advantages of the shaft in a tunnel. So you can see here now, again coming to this Gotthard base tunnel. So here they have given the techniques which were used to excavate the tunnel. So mostly TBM was deployed, but at this shaft location, if you see, dynamite was used. That is, drilling and blasting was deployed. So both the things was going simultaneously. That the TBM was doing its work from the north portal or north side, and from the south portal, but simultaneously wherever there was uh, drilling and blasting in this 8.5 kilometer stretch, so there the equipments were lowered through the shaft and then the drilling blasting took place. Okay, so now you can see this Gotthard base tunnel. The construction period, it's from 95 to 2017, so that's a lot of more than 2 decades it took for construction of this tunnel. And due to the extremely hilly terrain, it was difficult, but then too they finished it with all the difficulties. And here you see they had just one tunnel or one shaft used. Maybe if they would have used multiple shafts, they would have done this work a bit quicker. But again, that's up to the situation what they faced during that period of 95 to 2017. So at the after the beginning of the 21st century, you can say that there was advancement, but in the late 90s that kind of advancements were not there, and that's why it also took a lot of time. So necessity advantages of shaft I've already discussed. So yeah, one more necessity or use of your shaft is for obviously the mucking purpose. Now you might think that this mucking I am talking about a lot, that this mucking process is of a great deal. So you might also think that what is so great about it, you have to just remove the excavated material out of the tunnel. So you will come to know when we discuss later the details about this mucking technique. So your shaft, it can also be used for disposal of your excavated material, that is the muck. I told you it reduces the total time for excavation because you have a lot of junctures at which you can start your excavation process. It increases the ventilation because that's an opening, and more the opening, the ventilation improves in your tunnel system. Also, as I told you, you can transport your machinery into the interiors of the tunnel by just lowering it into the shaft. Another component of your tunnel is a portal. Now, this portal, it might look as a very fancy name, but this portal is nothing but the entrance of your tunnel. Okay, the entrance and exit of your tunnel, whatever is the face of this entrance and exit, that is nothing but portal. Okay, but though it's just an entrance, you have to take into consideration a bit of a factors while deciding what type of portal you have to go. So as I told you, it's an actual doorway or a main entrance to the tunnel on any of either of the sides. And what is so peculiar, or why you have to think over it before designing or constructing a portal, it is because it's an intersecting point between underground opening and the ground surface. So obviously at the entry, you have two interfaces, the open area and the underground. So your portal, it is an interface between the both. So that's why you have to decide very well in advance that what type of portal you have to go with, and does it suits the requirement of the topography over there. And if we talk about the functions or the requirements, so it should be strong enough to take the superimposed load. Now you will come to know when I show you the pictures that what is this superimposed load I am talking about. At the same time, your portal should be attractive. I have a very good photograph to show you that how you can make this portal attractive one. And the most important thing that you have to remember about this portal is that your portal is the only entry and exit point to your tunnel. Okay, if you don't have a pilot tunnel or a service tunnel and other kind of thing, so in that case your portal is the only way in and out of the tunnel. So you should look into it that it is avoided by the damage due to activities or the natural calamities such as landslides or rockfall or any kind of a earth movement. Yes, because if this happens, if the portal gets damaged or blocked, then the people inside the tunnel they will get trapped, and then it will be very difficult for you to plan the rescue operation, because at that time once the portals get blocked, then the ventilation system also fails, and then there are a lot of issues which can happen in a short span of time. Okay, so that's why you have to look into it that your portal should be strong enough to sustain these damages or these kind of loads. Okay, and at the same time it should have proper drains also. So instead of showing you this theoretical, I'll directly show you some examples. Okay, so these are the different types of portals that you have. So you see, as I told you, its portal is nothing but a face or entry and exit for your tunnels. But why you have to think over it, because if you see the first photograph on the top left, so this is the portal that you have, and if you see, this is the edge from which the or from where the mountain starts. There is a mountain above, and from here the mountain starts, but the portal, it is extended to this much length. Now why it is so? It is because if by chance there is a rock fall or a landslide, then that whatever are the debris which come off the mountain, they will fall upon this much area, and then they will be sidelined over here. So directly they will not block your entry and exit of your tunnels. So that's one thing. And another thing is, if there is a seepage of groundwater, then again that groundwater will not directly fall upon the entry exit. It will just roll down from the edges of this portal. Okay, and then it will be collected and then drained off, and the road will be clear always. Okay. And another thing that we see, that your portal should be attractive. So the photograph at the bottom left, what you see, so it's another type of portal or shape you can say, but it's pretty attractive than the one on the top. Same is the case on your right hand side, the photograph that you see. Now it's an old tunnel, old railway tunnel, but you can see it's the portal, it is formed in the form of an arch. So that's again an attractive one, and obviously it is made up of stone masonry, the old construction, so it is capable of bearing the load which is above it. So that is the superimposed load that I was talking about. Okay. And if I talk about the classification, so classification of portal, it is just based on the shape. So whatever is the shape of this entry, so whether it's an rectangle or it's an egg shape or it's a circular or a semicircular or an arch shape, so depending on that you have different classification of portals. Right. And this is a very good example that I found while searching for this types of portals. So there is a tunnel, there's a East Link freeway in Australia, and it has a tunnel in between. So if you see, this is what that tunnel entry and exit of the tunnel looks like. So this is a very unconventional type of portal that you can have. So though the entry, you can say it's a sort of a rectangle tunnel, but the portal is designed in such a way that it's very attractive. And the reason for this is that whatever length of this tunnel, it goes through a what you can say, sort of wildlife area, okay, or a forest reserve area. So conserving that forest, they have excavated this tunnel, and then to you know go on with the theme of the forest or the wildlife reserve, they have came up with this type of portal. So it's a very good attractive portal that I found while searching for this. So this is what I was about to show you for that attractiveness of portal. Okay, so that's all for today.